Hey, what's up guys, Lord Civic here, and today we're finally going to be doing our review on the LG 45GX950A display. In my honest opinion, the absolute best ultra-wide gaming monitor ever. Now, I said keyword gaming there because for productivity and, overall use of a display, something like the 57-inch Samsung Mini LED, I believe what it is, display might be more ideal for you. Maybe even the Neo or G9 OLED if you would still like to keep an OLED display, or even the LG 1440p variant of this display as well. Now, the reason I say that it's the perfect gaming ultra monitor is because the vertical height, the 4K base resolution or 5K 2K, it being OLED, the refresh rate, and just the ridiculous amount of onslaught of features creates this subset of a monitor that is just so unbelievable and creates this level of immersion, say in games like Cyberpunk or The Witcher, or even cinematic first-person games like Dishonored, Bioshock, Deathloop, all those different games. Those are just immersive sims. But even like, games like, I feel like even Call of Duty would be really freaking cool on this. And the thing about it is, all these things are so cool about this monitor, but there's too many buts. It's DisplayPort 2.1, but it's not the full 80 gigabit speed. It's a OLED display, but for a lot of people, it being a matte display is a huge problem over glossy, or even something that's supposed to be coming on in something like Asus's new True Black glossy display. So in this video, I'm just gonna be a lot of glazing because, as I said, I love the monitor. I believe it's the best ultra-wide gaming monitor as well, but there's also going to be a lot of critiques and things that I would like to see LG improve on in newer versions of the display. I know they're doing the 990A, which I know the curvature is a big issue for a lot of people. The reason I said those other monitors might be more ideal is because the large curvature makes it very much ideal for gaming, and even though you can use it for productivity, you're gonna wanna have a less aggressive curve when you're doing stuff like, I guess, coding or stocks and other different stuff like that. So in this video, we're gonna go over all those things. With saying that, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's hop right in. So the first thing that we're gonna discuss is the display itself, the height, the curvature, matte display, and then also the size. So first thing I wanna highlight, and I think is probably the greatest thing about the monitor in itself, I know the 1440p variant already did it years ago, is the height of this monitor. Now, in my comparison video between this display and the PG32CM, and then I also did another one between this and a G9 OLED, I believe I have these numbers correctly. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen if I don't. This display's height is 18 inches. The PG32CM, which is a 32-inch display, has a height of about 16 inches. The G9 OLED, which is 4 inches longer than the LG GX9, has a height of, I believe, only 14 inches. So there's literally a 4-inch difference between a display that's 45 inches and 49 inches. And the 45-inch variant has added verticality over the 49-inch variant. Now, when you think about it, you might be thinking, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But when you're sitting in front of the computer and you have a ridiculously long display, and it's also ridiculously long on the top and bottom, it creates this experience like an ultra-wide TV. That's legitimately the best way to explain it. When I have an ultra-wide monitor like the G9 OLED, I understand that I'm looking at a monitor. It's tinier from top to bottom, and it's very long from side to side. This does both. It creates this experience that, the same thing that you get on TVs, say like the LG G5, the Sony A95L, or even say something like the Samsung, what's the current model, S90D or whatever, I don't know the specific model of the current Samsung TVs, but you get the best of both worlds. And see, with that point, you could kind of make the argument, okay, yeah, it fits within the criteria of TVs and different stuff like that, but it does its own thing, because you're not going to get any TV that's going to be able to have the raw curvature of it, that's going to be able to have the elongated aspect ratio of it. And yes, you can put a custom resolution on the TV itself and have black bars to the top and bottom of the screen. I did a whole video on that years ago. Crazy experience. It's really cool that OLED TVs can do that. And yes, the black bars at the top and the bottom of the screen will be absolutely black because it's an OLED display. But having a display that has, the aspect ratio of like 21:9 or even 32:9, this one's 21:9, and then you see from bezels from top to bottom and all around the display, and then there's nothing above and above it and below it or on the side, dude, it is crazy. how the combination of like 45 inches, the 800R curve, which basically envelops around you like you're in the freaking bat cave, and it being OLED and then the raw 4K resolution. Yo, Cyberpunk 2077, which I am about halfway through a playthrough right now. I started a new one since I got this monitor. Unbelievable. There's no other display that will be able to even give you remotely close experience when it comes to the vibrancy of colors, the size factor, the PPI, the resolution, the refresh rate. It's so freaking cool. And the reason I say that it's the best ultrawide gaming monitor is because it's to the point where some games that I've played on here is the best I've ever seen the game. And I have a Sony A95L. I know it's not the absolute best gaming TV. It's not the brightest gaming TV either, especially with, like the LG G5, I think be able to reach 2400 nits versus the A95L, which can only do 1600, and this can only do 1300. But it's really tricky to recommend something like this because of the specific price point, but at the same time, it's like you can't get it like something like this you can't get something like this anywhere else. Now, following talking about the display, it does not have the full DisplayPort 2.1, and that's one of the first but issues that I have. Now, I kind of understand LG's reasoning for going with it. I guess they didn't want to push things too far, especially with even me. I have a 5090. I'm not getting with multi-frame Gen 2 times or even 3 times 165 hertz unless I lower the settings and turn everything off of like psycho ray tracing, all the different bells and whistles, even ray reconstruction, different stuff like that. It's hard to run modern titles. And you might be saying, okay, but Cyberpunk's not even like a modern title. The game's like what, almost 4 or 5 years old right now? That even further proves my point. Yes, the game is getting new ray tracing features and different stuff like that, but it's still so ridiculously hard to run, even with a top-of-the-line 5090, 9950X3D, 96 gigabytes of RAM, which I don't really think that's particularly important when it comes to gaming, different stuff like that. But that's just to show you I have like the headroom or whatever of like basically the highest spec device you can get right now. But even with that, it's hard to push 11 million pixels. Now, with that point though, I still think with the device being as expensive as it is, it should have came with the full DisplayPort 2.1. I think it would have added maybe $100, maybe $200 price to get the full 80 gigabit speed. But I think LG just wanted to hit that specific price point of 2000 without, going overboard. But you can't really do that. You can't really cut costs, especially when you're making a device that's pro-consumer like this. Now, also the 165 hertz. It is kind of crazy because a lot of the other ultrawide displays, even I don't know a specific model, but the 57-inch mini LED Samsung, that is a 240 hertz display. Yes, it utilizes DSC. I don't even think it has DisplayPort 2.1. If it does, I'm sorry. I haven't had the monitor itself. I've seen it before, but I don't have it in ownership. I've never had it in ownership. But that's 240 hertz. The LG 1440p variant of this is 240 hertz. The G9 OLED is 240 hertz. The G9 Neo is 240 hertz. And you could be saying, okay, this doesn't need 240 hertz. But if they put the full 80 gigabit speed of it, then there would be no issue with it being able to reach the 240 hertz speed. And it's like they're setting almost limitations on a pro-consumer device that most consumers aren't going to buy. And yes, you can make the argument that even the 5090 can't push 165 hertz in modern day titles or ridiculously demanding titles. But when you get a monitor, most people are going to keep it for at least a minimum 2-3 years, usually. And it's going to be crazy when we get the 6090 that theoretically would be able to push the full 165 hertz refresh rate of the monitor. And then it's just like, oh, dang, there's a new one that just came out the same year. Oh, I have to put out another $2,000 to get the newest and latest best. And it's kind of like, okay, I really wish they didn't put that limitation. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is the matte display. I personally don't hate it. I understand, especially with the monitor being as large as it is, with it having a matte display, there is some advantages low-key. You don't have to really worry about, okay, I have this lighting coming to my room, I have the lights in my room, I'm a streamer as well, I have a big light that goes across, I don't have to angle it any specific way, I don't really have to worry about reflections, especially with somebody that has a lot of LED lighting and stuff on my computer, I don't really have to worry about that. But in the same sentence, I will completely agree with a lot of my viewers that a glossy display looks more aesthetically pleasing, especially when it's tricky because the resolution of it being 4K just already makes it look so much better than a lot of other monitors on the market. I think it looks a lot better than the G9 OLED. But when I was doing my comparison video between the G9 OLED and then also the comparison video with the PG32 UCDM and then this display, I realized that with it being a matte display, you lose that glossy finished look of the display looking like an oil painting in motion. And, you know, even the G9 OLED and the PG32 UCDM, they're not true black glossy. They have some level of like filtering over them. It's not like the new true black glossy Asus displays that are going to be coming out, but you miss that kind of like oily look where you could just like look out and touch it and it feel like you can almost feel like it would be kind of like a liquid type thing that would come off on your finger. Now it's still 4K, it still looks absolutely phenomenal and different stuff like that, but you lose that kind of like art in motion look, but it does look crisp as hell. Now the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the display itself is the 45-inch size of it. I love it. Oh, we also got to talk about the curvature, but I love the 45-inch, and I guess the curvature and the 45-inch go hand in hand, to be honest. But I love the 45-inch. It's big, but it's not too big. I've had 34-inch, I have 35-inch with the X34, I have 49-inch with the Neo and the OLED. I've never had a 57-inch in ownership as myself. I have never had a 57-inch display in ownership myself, but I feel like that would be a little bit too big for me. The 49-inch was even pushing it a little bit, but I think the 45-inch is the perfect middle ground. I think 39 would also be pretty ideal as well because of the PPI, you know, with it being a smaller display. But I love this because it's like big but not too big. And then also, next thing I want to talk about, the curvature. 800R curve, just, it's perfect on a 45-inch display. And I think I said earlier in the video, I don't think it would be as ideal on, say, like 34, 35, 39, or maybe even 49. It would look kind of weird. I think it would look really weird on a 57-inch. But on a 45-inch display, dude, it's like the Bat Cave. It literally is like the Bat Cave. And I said this earlier. Playing Cyberpunk or like, you know, Batman or Dishonored or Witcher or like anything. Even I'm playing Baldur's Gate like every morning at 7 o'clock. I play Baldur's Gate with my friends. Unbelievable. So ridiculous the level of immersion that it gives that like no other display is able to give. And it's such a beautiful feeling when playing on this display because I legitimately feel like I'm playing these games in the best absolute form factor possible on the planet right now. But as I said at the beginning, and as I keep stating through this video, there's just so many buts when it comes to it. So the last thing I want to discuss in today's video is first the hardware recommendations that I think best pair well with this display. I also want to talk about everyday usage when it comes to productivity, Adobe Premiere, Word, Excel, basic browser usage. When it comes to stocks and coding, I think a non-OLED display might be the best bet for you guys. Also, the curvature doesn't make it perfectly ideal, especially when you're going to have multiple windows open in that specific case usage. Honestly, when it comes to productivity, I think low-key the best monitor might be the 57-inch Samsung Mini LED monitor, especially with it not being a OLED with the ridiculous amount of static usage that you'll get on that. But if you still want to get OLED or whatever and you just need text legibility and stuff like that, the G9 OLED might be more ideal. Or again, if you don't want to even go as expensive as big as 57-inch, the Neo 49-inch might be more ideal for you. And then last but not least, I just want to talk about what I hope to see LG improves on with their future variants of this display or the specific form factor. I do know the 990A is going to be coming out later this year, which would be a lot more ideal for people that do a lot of productivity work in addition to their gaming. But other than that, it's going to be the exact same, other than being able to go 900R to 1800R and be bendable. And then also, last but not least, I hope that other companies like Asus, Samsung, Alienware, Gigabyte are looking at the things that LG has done with this monitor and further improves on them as well, because competition is always the best thing. If we have LG, like I'm telling you, if LG is the only one that continues to do this form factor of the vertical height of it, I'm going to actually be pretty upset, because I've got ultra-wide monitors for years, and I never imagined that having the extra vertical height would just add such a extreme improvement on the gaming experience. Like, it's literally something you gotta see yourself, and the videos just really don't give it justice. So anyway, let's hop right into all these stuff that I have to talk about. First and foremost, the hardware requirements on this monitor is pretty darn high, okay? And at first, I was kind of the point that I think you should have at least a 5070 Ti. I've kind of bent back a little, and realistically, I could probably say you can have a 4070 Ti. But there's a huge caveat with that. I believe that the GPU and the display go hand in hand. They should be not one of one when it comes to price point, because it's not just like, oh, you spend $3,000 on a monitor, TV, or whatever, you should spend $3,000 on the graphic card. Like, you have to get an A90, you have to get an Asus 5090 Astral just because you got the 65-inch LG G5. That doesn't make sense. But in the same vein, this monitor puts it on the level of like ridiculously high-end TVs, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to skimp on the device that's going to be powering it and giving it, you know, all its frames and different stuff like that, especially when, let's say you do decide to pair it with a 4070 Ti, you are going to be heavily limited on the VRAM usage, because 11 million pixels is, nevertheless, if you want to set things at ultra settings, even at lower settings, 11 million pixels is so much. Then you decide to throw in, you want to do ray tracing, you want to, and like, the thing is, you do not need that stuff. But like, if you are buying basically the most immersive, best ultra-wide gaming monitor ever released, you need to pair it with something that's worthy of it. Like, it's like putting cheap parts in a car. Like, that's like legitimately the best metaphor to use. You're limiting yourself and you're hindering yourself, and it's kind of weird, because if you already have the GPU, it's kind of like a different thing. But like, if you're building a new computer, I would highly recommend for you not to just spend so much money on the display and then skimp on the GPU. It just doesn't make sense. There's so many monitors of such a large variety, things that cost literally half of this, that will give you not the same experience, but something very close. The G9 OLED is very good. The 1440p variant of this is also very good. You'll get a higher refresh rate as well. I believe it's above 165 Hz. Please quote me if I'm wrong. But you get a higher refresh rate display, lower resolution, doesn't require as much to drive and different stuff like that. And then you also have more money to spend on your graphic card and different stuff like that. So like, gives you almost, it pulls you in different directions when it comes to hardware requirements of the display. But it's just like, realistically, I think if you do not have a 5070 Ti at the minimum, you really probably shouldn't be looking at this display. 5070 maybe might be cutting it close. I think you would be okay with the 4070 Ti, but you're just hindering yourself so much when there's so many other displays that will give you such a more ideal gaming experience, and you won't even have to spend close to as much money on the display, and then also would just free up money for you to spend on the rest of your computer parts. Now, when it comes to productivity of the display, when it comes to Adobe Premiere and web browsing and Excel and Word and different stuff like that, I've just had a crazy experience doing it. I love it. I do, you know, as I use it more and more, I do kind of see where people don't like the large aggressive curve when it comes to productivity. I don't personally mind it, but when I have multiple windows and different stuff open as well, it's really cool when it's like a flat display, kind of like the G9 OLED, or even kind of a less aggressive curve on the 57-inch Samsung display, because it's like you have actual multiple windows in front of you. It feels more like you're using a VR headset, and you know, it's like Iron Man, you know, in his cave, like pressing on holographic things, going like a circle around them, which is not bad. I've personally gotten used to it, but in the same vein, if I was, say, doing stocks all the time, or I was doing coding and different stuff like that, the 990A might be the better display for you. And I understand a lot of people are waiting for that because that might be a little better for them. Now, last but not least, these are the things that I hope LG improves on, and then I hope that Gigabyte, Asus, Samsung, and all of them take from this monitor because it's really good. And I hope that they actually learn from it. First and foremost, the added vertical height on this display. There is no reason in hell that LG should be the only person doing this. I'm sorry. That came across really aggressive. My intent is not to be mean, but there is no reason that LG should be the only person putting the extra vertical height on an Ultrawide monitor. It is a no-brainer decision. Until you like see it yourself, like you really don't realize what you're missing, but like it is unbelievable. Like if this monitor was the exact same, but it was cut down and had the exact same vertical height of it, I would not love it even remotely as much. That in itself probably accounts for like 30% of why I'm flipping out so much about this monitor. Obviously the 4K, OLED, all those different stuff in culmination where you try to create a full 100% piece of the pie, but like the vertical height is unbelievable. Gigabyte, Asus, Alienware, Samsung, you guys need to get on that. Even if that's not like your main variant, you need to make a variant that has the extra vertical height. It's just so freaking cool. 4K, yes, 11 million pixels, high pixel count, all the different stuff is ridiculously high. It's ridiculously hard to run. Yes, it's going to make the price of the monitor super expensive. Yes, it's new, it's bleeding edge tech. 4K ultrawide going forward is it's unbelievable. Okay, being able to look at not only the raw environments and stuff like that in such exquisite detail, but also having the character models and all the details, and walking as Geralt in The Witcher 3 and seeing the texture detail of all his armor and everything just in this crisp raw detail point where you can like basically be up in front of the monitor, can't even see the pixels. That's just how clear it is. Amazing. So good, so good. I don't mind the matte, really. I really don't. I don't think it's too bad, but like I love the inky glossiness of a glossy display. You make a monitor like this in glossy format, honestly, this is a huge glaze, but like if this was a glossy this way, honestly, I think any other issue would probably just be able to like, I would just be like, okay, yeah, it's perfect. I don't care. Yeah, it doesn't do this, but like it would just overshadow it. But like LG, sorry, I'm like sputtering, but LG, I think they're kind of on their like matte display only for like their monitors, which I don't understand why, to be honest, because you know they make excellent glossy TVs, but it's good, it's amazing, and I would love to see a glossy variant of it, QD OLED variant, true black glossy like Asus's new one, like all that different stuff like that. 45-inch, I know that's kind of LG style, but I kind of like it. It's been my favorite size of an ultrawide monitor so far. I would like other people to see that as well. What else? We need a higher refresh rate. Yes, 5090 can't push it, but older titles do exist, which is something that I should have further spoke about, but older titles do exist. It's not hard to push 165 Hz in every title, but you know, I'm already struggling with like Expedition 33. If I run that DLAA, I can't get above 60, which is crazy. So in the same vein, I kind of understand why they went with 165 Hz, especially when most people aren't going to have the hardware to push anywhere close to that, but we need a 240 Hz variant. We also, I would love to see a 4040p variant that has above the 240 Hz. That would be nice to see, but there's just so many small little improvements and variations that I think can improve on already phenomenal monitor. As I said, in my honest opinion, it is the best ultrawide gaming monitor ever released, but it's just sad in the back of my mind that I'm just like, it's so good, but it's so good, but now if I had to put a score on it, and I usually don't even really score monitors, as I said, it's the best ultrawide gaming monitor ever. It is a 9 out of 10. I take that 1 point off because, you know, matte still, as I said, I don't have a huge grievance with it. Glossy would still look better. The limitation of the display port, the 165 Hz compared to 240 Hz you find on other variant monitors. And I don't mind the curve, but I understand the curve might add even a point off for a lot of people, but I highly recommend it if you have the hardware for it. There's nothing better on the market right now. say in a year's time, that's not going to be the same. Also, by the end of the year, it's not going to be the same. The 990A is probably going to be the better display for a lot of people, especially with a lot of people doing not just strictly gaming, but productivity as well. But as I said, 9 out of 10, I love it. Best ultrawide gaming monitor ever. I'm excited to see future variations of it that LG does, and I really, really, really hope that other monitor makers learn from it, improve on it, and I'm just excited to see the future of ultrawide gaming and what it holds. Now, saying that, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see improved on future variations of ultrawide monitors, and any other specific questions that you guys have when it comes to ultrawide displays or anything pertaining to this display in comparison to like the GX9 OLED or even other previous monitors I had. With saying that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to hit the like, subscribe button, and have a great day.